How we doing, folks? Welcome into Week 10 postgame. I'm Jason Blakeney. With me is Brady Aymond. And Brady, wrapped up district play tonight. District 1-6A, PHS already had things wrapped up. They finished their slate against Escambia, and, buddy, it was a blowout. And, the funny thing about it, though, the first half, Escambia pretty well had PHS's number. What they did, they played a lot of keep away. Their first drive was like 15 plays, took up almost the entire first quarter. End up with the missed field goals to no points, but the PHS offense wasn't on the field. And in the first half, PHS 10 plays, less than 10 yards of total offense, no first downs, and somehow they go into halftime with a 14-3 lead.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and it's kind of one of those things where you don't want to say they had a letdown, but maybe the fact that they had already wrapped up the district championship and Escambia wasn't really going to pose much of a challenge tonight in the long run. Maybe they kind of sleptwalked through that first half, and maybe Escambia just had a really good game plan early on and probably just ran out of numbers in the second half. I know they're down to 20-something players on that team for them.
Yeah, and they had a couple injuries during the game, too, so that doesn't help them. They had a surprise, though, PHS did, in running back Kevon Abrams. Kid has never played a varsity down, comes in the second half without a touch in the first half. Second half, goes off, 12 carries, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is on top of Demarius Travis playing great at quarterback. He has a 45-yard touchdown pass and 3 rushing touchdowns. And it just looks like every time they have a weapon go down, they reload.
Yeah, that's why Mike Bennett's always smiling when we see him because, he knows that, obviously he'd love to have Jalen Spencer and Jimmy Threed and Derek Black. But for every one of those guys, he's got another guy just kind of waiting in the wings, just waiting for his turn.
Yeah, and it's easy when you have an offensive line like theirs, too.
Exactly.
A bunch of big guys know what they're doing and blow people off the ball. They pretty well dominated the Escambia defensive line. So that wraps up their district play. They've got one more regular season game. It's against Choctaw at Choctaw. And because Navarre lost to Mosley on Thursday, District 2-6A is all settled out. Niceville's your champion. Choctaw's your runner-up. So Choctaw then will turn around and come to PHS the following week. So you probably get a bunch of vanilla next week.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if they even play a varsity game next week. If I were the coaches, I'd go ahead and just play a JV game. Because, what's the point? Why play your varsity 2 weeks in a row? I wouldn't want to show them anything.
Right.
Especially any kind of young guys you might have, especially, PHS, some of these young guys, don't give them a chance to kind of get even more tape on these guys.
Right. So maybe Kevon Abrams, after 152 yards, sits on the bench next week. So we'll see how that turns out, though. That'll be pretty interesting. And since District 2-6A avoided that shootout, we now know that Pace will travel to Niceville in the opening round. Niceville, that district champion. And Pace finished their regular season tonight against Catholic. A couple of uncharacteristic turnovers for them. They'll have a week off next week with the bye. They're going to have to eliminate those if they want to advance out of the first round.
Yeah, definitely. And going up against the Niceville team that they lost to early this year. Remember, they had that 13-0 lead over Niceville and fell apart in that fourth quarter, and Niceville came back and win. So, obviously, Pace will have revenge on their mind for that one.
Yeah, and that's one of those games that you have to think might come down to the last possession, as it did earlier in the year. It has a couple of different times in the playoffs. Real history here, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Another district championship on the line tonight, Brady, and the game that you went to see, Northview hosting Baker, and we thought this one would be close,
yeah,
and it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. Northview gets their first shutout of the year, 34-0 win over Baker. And just a dominant effort from Northview. And this is kind of what we thought early in the year we'd see from Northview. They're starting to get a lot better these last couple of games. They have kind of imposing their will on people. And it was an interesting game because, early on it was 0-0 through the first quarter. Northview came out in that pistol formation and was trying to run their offense through that. And they were having a lot of motion penalties. So they kind of went back to basics. They went to the double tight wing T, and they just ran that in 3 plays in that offense, 3 touchdowns. They get to a 21-0 lead. They score right before the half, take a 28-0 lead. From that point on, they just pretty much cruise in the second half. So Northview wins that district. They're going to host the second-place team from the Vernon district, and then that means that Freeport, who played Jay tonight, will go to Vernon, the district champion in that district.
All right, and it seemed like at the beginning of the year we thought Northview would be one of the better teams in the area. They get blown out by Gulf Breeze, and that made a lot of people take pause there and kind of wonder what was going on up there. But it seems like they've really hit their stride here at the end of the season, and that's exactly what you want to do if you're Northview. You want to peak going into the playoffs. You don't care about losing to Gulf Breeze.
Yeah, and I think early on, I think Coach Wheatley will even admit this. I think early on, maybe they were reading their headlines a little too much. People were talking about how they were the favorite in this new rural league, and and talking about all these games early on, kind of as a chance to get them to maybe make a statement with a win over a 5A team, with a win over Chipley, and they lost to us 2 games early on, and kind of had to regroup. But I think ever since they got to the point where they started playing teams their size, and they started to have better matchups, they started to blow these teams out. And we've seen them get better progressively week in and week out. And now, they play another 5A team this week in West Florida, so we'll get a chance to see how good they are now, how much they've improved since that week 3 game against Gulf Breeze.
And that game moved to Thursday night, won't be on Friday. It will be at Marlon L. Bullock Field, who's going to get a lot of work. That Marlon L. Bullock Field is going to see a whole lot of cleats over the next week. And with that, we'll go to Bob Heist. He'll tell us why and what district did not avoid a shootout.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Looking around the area, big news coming out of District 15A. Hey, we're going to have a shootout to see who earns the playoff berth, starting with Gulf Breeze. Went on the road to Rutherford. Huge win for the Dolphins, 42-7. Sophomore quarterback Andy Creech, 2 touchdown passes, 2 TDs rushing. And what that did in combination with Arnold beating Bay, we have 3 teams tied at the end of the 15A district season. That'll be West Florida, which tonight went to Childs in a non-district game and won 38-28. But back to what I was saying, we got the Jaguars, Gulf Breeze, and Arnold. 3 teams, 2 playoff spots. The shootout will be held Monday at Woodham Middle, and it'll be Gulf Breeze and Arnold at 7 o'clock in a 12-minute game. The winner then plays West Florida for the championship to decide the championship and runner-up spot. So that's the big news tonight. And back to West Florida, which just continues its historic season for the program, moves to 8-1. Kyle Faxlanger had a touchdown pass, touchdown rushing, and the Jaguars, prepping for that shootout, rallied from a 21-10 deficit at Childs. So that's the big news. Moving on, Pine Forest finished up its season, beating Milton 59-35. 3 touchdowns each for Travian Suggs and Rashad Lee for the Eagles. Rashad Lee, all 3 touchdowns were rushing, and he became the 4th area rusher to go over 1,000 yards this season. So kudos to you, Rashad Lee. Washington, 40, Tate 32. DeJohn Funderburk, no surprise, huge game against the winless Aggies. 8 catches, 228 yards, 2 TDs, and really, with quarterback Clay Hinton, was the difference in the game for the Wildcats. Rounding it out, Jay ended its season with a 41-14 loss at home to Freeport. So that's it, guys. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Bob. Brady, that shootout in District 15A, the only one for any of our teams, we thought maybe we'd have more. We thought as many as 3.
Yeah.
We end up only having the one, and it's the one that maybe is the most interesting.
No, it is. I mean, I think all 3 teams are kind of, at different points in the season right now. Gulf Breeze is without their starting quarterback, their starting tailback to begin the season at least, and playing with 2 sophomores in the backfield. Arnold's kind of starting to build some momentum. They obviously have those big playmakers. And West Florida is just trying to, kind of bounce back from that Arnold game. Now, obviously, West Florida has the advantage, so to speak, in this shootout because they have the bye. They have the home field advantage. Gulf Breeze and Arnold will play first, and then the winner of that game will play West Florida. Now, if West Florida wins that game, it's over. West Florida wins the district championship. The Gulf Breeze Arnold winner is the runner-up. If something happens and West Florida loses that game, and then you're looking at West Florida playing the loser of that first game for basically second place, and whoever wins that beats West Florida in that second game will be the district champion. So, no.
Let's unconvolute that just a touch here. Okay, game 1 is Arnold against Gulf Breeze.
Yeah.
1 quarter, 12 minutes, winner advances to game 2 against West Florida. There is no game 3 unless the winner of game 1 beats West Florida. If West Florida wins, it's over. West Florida's the champion. The winner of game 1 is the runner-up. So
It can get confusing if you start throwing out who it's so and so be so and so. But yeah, exactly. It's either two games. Pretty much two games you figure, and if there's a third game, it's going to be the West Florida playing that first game, losing.
Well, either way, we'll be there,
and
we will bring you live scoring updates from that game. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, you might send just the whole staff out there because that's the biggest thing in town. That's the biggest ticket going there. And that's at Marlon L. Bullock Field. Look for plenty of details on that as the weekend progresses, especially in Brady's Prep Insider tomorrow. So until Monday, thanks for joining us. I am Jason Blakeney. This is Brady Aymond, and we will see you for the shootout.